Alpha, alpha, alpha. NFT alpha. What is it? And how do we find it?
On today's show, we have a very special guest. Nifty Nick is how he is known. He is a NFT celebrity in the Twitter sphere, runs a daily show called the Nifty Alpha, and drops alpha bombs every day on which NFTs you should be collecting, which ones you should be dumping, and which one you should be hodling for your dear life. So we're very excited to be talking all things alpha on Goats and the Metaverse today in a market that's a little challenging. Stanley, we're seeing that it's not so easy to flip JPEGs over the past week. Those 2, 3, 5, 10Xs are coming a little bit slower. What's your take? What's happening?
My take is there's still alpha to be found. And we're going to find out today how to find it. Welcome to Goats in the Metaverse, everybody. I'm your host, Stanley Meytin, with my buddy, Yossi. How we doing today, bud?
We are doing well. We are still very sleep deprived with a newborn baby, but with the NFT market being a 24/7 market, there is no sleep allowed. Sleep is for non-goats, and we, my friend, we are goats. So we don't sleep, and we are in this market every single day. So I'm excited to talk through what's been happening. But before we do that, we're going to remind everyone about our famous Goat Vault.
The Goat Vault!
The Goat Vault. Not everything is down. Our Goat Vault has gone up this week. $54,725 is available to be won in the vault.
How do we win?
To remind people.
How do we win? How do we win, Yossi?
How do we win? It's the easiest giveaway in the world. You got to subscribe to our show. Click the like button or click the subscribe button and become one of our first 5,000 subscribers. And we will be giving away all of these NFTs to a lucky subscriber once we hit the 5,000 mark. And that is a $55,000 NFT giveaway at today's prices. That is a lot of loot, a lot of NFTs. So click the subscribe button, tell your friends, and become part of this community by joining Goats in the Metaverse and standing a chance to win the Goat Vault.
The Goat Vault. Well done, man. I miss when you explain it. When I explain, I have to think about it. Did I say it right? Did I say it wrong? Did they understand me? But you got the accent. You're ready to go, man. So
it's my one-trick pony.
It's your one-trick pony. We actually took a week off last week for NFT.NYC, and there was a lot of things happening. Let's share with our audience what exactly NFT.NYC is and was, and what went on during this crazy week in the beautiful city of New York.
NFT.NYC is the world's most probably major NFT conference. Thousands, I think the number was about 5,000 people gathered in New York City to talk NFTs across the entire week. New York City was basically taken over by NFTs. As you can see, Times Square, our cool cats, and a whole bunch of others were displayed on some of the Times Square billboards. It was a little surreal walking around and seeing a cool cat and some apes and some of the famous artists that we collect on these billboards. And I think it's just a preview of what's to come, that this is going to become prominent in the years to come. The conference itself brought all the major collectors, investors, creators. Many talks were going on and talking all things on the future of Web3, the future of NFTs. Are we in a bubble? Is this actually a short trend, or is this really changing the world in how creators and collectors connect and how we are able to bridge this world from intermediaries into being able to communicate directly with artists? So that was a lot of the topics of conversation. There was also a lot of partying. Bored Ape Yacht Club probably had the biggest party of them all. They rented a yacht and had over 1,000 people on the Hudson and a warehouse party, and that was the talk of the town. So a lot of cool stuff happening at the same time.
Yeah, I went to your party, but we could talk about that next week. But I thought the most interesting part about NFT.NYC was most of the people I met actually didn't go to the conference. Conference was sold out, and I believe there was something like over 300 or 400 events outside of the conference, and they were all packed, right? I know Bored Ape Yacht Club, their pop-up merch store was a 4-hour wait at any given point. They had celebrities like Little Baby and Chris Rock at their warehouse party. I know Gary Vee did a wine pop-up at like midnight. There was over 2,000 people that showed up to that. The guy, Creature World, threw a huge party at, I believe, Hammerstein Ballroom, where they actually had a blow-up of
a creature.
And they had an obstacle course and a playground, and things got crazy. But the talk of the community was everyone had a great time, right? Everybody was out there partying. It was crazy, and it looks like this was just the tip of the iceberg. And I think future NFT.NYCs or future NFT events are going to get a lot crazier. I'm excited to see what happens. And yeah, like you said, Times Square full of cats, punks, and apes, right on the big billboards. And it seems to be the trend now, even after NFT.NYC, from what I'm being told. There's constantly new NFT drops happening, showing up on Times Square monitors, screens, which I think is very interesting.
Well, we're going to hear about those new NFT drops when we bring on Nifty Nick. We also saw some other major news this week. We had our famous artist, Beeple, being featured on Jimmy Fallon's show last night, talking about his massive $29 million sale for a new physical piece that he generated called Human One. It's the size of a refrigerator, and it shows an astronaut walking on different types of lands. So a physical piece by Beeple being showcased. It was also available and displayed during NFT.NYC. Remarkable to see another Beeple sale fetching such high price tag. So Beeple really claiming his space as an OG here and not just a one-off wonder with his initial $69 million sale that kind of kicked off the entire boom market in the NFT world. If you want to watch the clip, you can Google the Jimmy Fallon show. It was actually quite interesting to hear what was said, but Jimmy Fallon also revealed something during that show. Stanley, what did he talk about?
He told everybody that he aped in and bought an ape, and he's now a part of the Bored Ape Yacht Club.
Another celebrity is in the Bored Ape Yacht Club. This club really seems to know how to bring in influencers. And is the kind of brand that is synonymous with cool today, and seems to be able to continue on that trajectory. There's a lot of talk about what's next for Bored Ape Yacht Club. Their event during NFT.NYC were a huge success. There's talk about a token and a potential token airdrop that might be happening over time. So a lot of excitement around the developments at Bored Ape Yacht Club. One thing that was very not present at NFT.NYC and a lot of people commenting about was Lava Labs or CryptoPunks. Punks were nowhere to be seen. And there's some people saying, well, when you're the OG, you don't have to throw big yacht parties to try and bring in the crowds. You already have that status. But a question on what's going to happen with that community, because Bored Apes certainly seem to be bringing in all the new celebs and all the new creators into their community. And CryptoPunks seeing a little bit of a downturn in their pricing, and when we go into the market, we can see how that's reflected. Bored Apes have remained strong, whereas CryptoPunks coming down a bit, and maybe that's a response to a little bit of lack of activity on their front.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, on the ape side, we see it on a weekly basis, right? A new celebrity apes in. I believe Rich the Kid, who's a rapper, was at a dinner. Somebody was talking about punks, and he bought one. I mean, sorry, they were talking about apes, and he bought one right at the dinner, which was happening during NFT.NYC. And this is just a common trend that we keep seeing on a weekly basis. Yeah, I think punks are OG, and they're not going anywhere. And I think Bored Ape is going to continue to make moves, and it's just going to be like the OG versus the cool kid going forward. And excited to see what happens. In other news, what happened with ENS? Let's talk about that.
So The ENS, for those of you who don't know, is the Ethereum name service. Similarly to how you type www.google.com, instead of typing 192.168. whatever the IP address is for Google, you have a simple name that you can remember, and that takes you to a certain website. So that is called DNS. And in the crypto world, we have ENS, Ethereum name service. So instead of having to send cryptocurrency to a wallet address 0x3732, well, this entire long string
that's my address.
that no one could remember, you can get a name that is yours, that there is associated with your wallet. So Yossi Hasson.eth is mine, and anyone who wants to send me anything on the Ethereum network can just send it to Yossi Hasson.eth. If you want to gift me some stuff today, I won't say no. You're welcome to send along. So ENS has been around for a couple of years, and yesterday or the day before, decided to reward its early network participants, anyone who has a .eth domain name or ENS name, that they're going to airdrop them some tokens, and those are governance tokens to be able to make decisions about how the future of ENS will play out, giving everyone a vote on the network, truly opening up this protocol and making it community owned. That airdrop was anywhere between 200 to almost 1,000 tokens, depending on when you registered your ENS domain name. Most people probably averaged around 400 odd. At any point in time, the price fluctuated, but at the peak, it was about $85. That was worth about $33,000 to people who registered their ENS domain name. I don't know about you, Stanley, but when I got my first domain name with GoDaddy, the thing that I got rewarded with was spam and an inability to unsubscribe. I sure as hell didn't get any $35,000 airdrop. This is what the future of networks and future of being early in these networks really means, rewarding your early stakeholders. So that was received with with much, much fanfare, and everyone was very excited. And this is what it looks like to open up a network.
And just so I'm clear, to buy a domain in ENS is like $100 fee, something around there. Am I correct?
It depends on the price of Ethereum at the time, because it is linked to the ETH price. But yeah, about $100 would have been the going rate for buying a domain name, and you got rewarded with 25 to 35 grand for doing that as a thank you for being one of the first few people on the network. And it's not the first time we've seen airdrops. We've seen the same thing with Uniswap. We've seen it with a number of other protocols. Gitcoin did the same. So really what we're seeing is this is a way to seed a network. You reward your early participants with the ability to own this token that gives governance and control over this network. And you become a voting shareholder in the path of how these protocols, how these networks, how these platforms will play out into the future. And it's a very different approach to the traditional Web 2 world, where you're early in these networks and primarily you're the product. They're shoving ads down your throats and trying to maximize their revenue with all of their early participants, as opposed to rewarding and allowing you to be part of the story moving forward.
And as we could see from the weeks prior, Ethereum continues to rise. About 4,800 was been the high this week. I think we checked right before the show started. It was 4,750. The conversation, continues. This is the road to 10,000. Is it going to dip before it goes to 10,000? Nobody really knows. You can't really predict the future. But as these things continue to happen, we're going to continue to see a rise in Ethereum. And obviously, it is going to continue to chase Bitcoin. And there's always going to be altcoins that are going to chase Ethereum. What are your thoughts? How quickly do we get to 10,000? Are you going to make a prediction?
I'm not going to make a prediction because a mentor of mine said, those who know don't predict, and those who predict don't know. But really, I've been a Ethereum holder since about $70 and have been bullish on it ever since. I at Metaverse am denominating my salary in Ethereum and living in an ETH world. So if that says anything about where I think Ethereum is going from here, I never seem to have enough, especially when investing and trading in NFTs. So I think, ETH at 10,000, as they say, it is programmed and it's going to happen. This is not financial advice. Do that with what you want. This is the currency of Web3, and I can see that this is only going up.
Well, you know what? Let's bring on Nifty Nick, because maybe, just maybe, Nifty Nick is going to make a prediction. Nick, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
10,000. How quickly do we get there? We're putting you right on the spot.
Not going to happen.
Not going to happen. Controversy. I love it.
I'm just kidding, but I don't know. I mean, the march to 10,000 is going to be tough, in my opinion. I just don't think we were discussing what we thought the price of ETH at the end of the year would be on our show the other morning, and I think it's closer to like, man, 5,800 is what I think actually hits on this round. It's low relative to I think what everyone's saying with 10,000, but it's sort of like. When everyone expects the price to be a certain amount, we tend to like undercut that basically. I have no idea. I literally have no idea where it's going. I've always said, in the game of like flipping NFTs, is really just get more ETH. Like your goal is to get more ETH. So, and I will continue to play that over the long haul, no matter what the price of ETH is, just because I believe over the long term that it will continue to appreciate and hopefully eventually hit 10,000 at some point. The problem is right now, like, I don't know when, the layer 2 transitions happen and ZK rollups and all these other things actually take place. So for now, I'm not opposed to even messing around on other blockchains. I actually just had Arbitrum as a website pulled up, and I was looking at their developer SDK.
Well, before we brought you on, you were talking about a failed transaction in a NFT drop that cost the buyer $15,000, and that's a bit of a
cost us $15,000. It cost
you $15,000.
We lost $15,000 in the process of trying to whitelist people on an NFT contract.
Wow,
that's only like three and change in ETH. It's not that bad.
It was 3.5 ETH. Yes, that's correct.
The number is entrenched in his brain. Yeah, and we're seeing a lot of people complaining that you want to buy an NFT for 0.2 ETH. The gas costs alone are costing you more than $100, $200 just to make that acquisition. So Ethereum is not without its problems. It's not without its challenges to continue to grow. But if you're talking about in the traditional something like product market fit, and seeing whether there is that in the industry, what that's telling you is there is so much demand to be putting these transactions on the Ethereum chain that it actually just can't support that type of volume. And that's why we're seeing these types of spikes in prices. So you're making a bet on the creativity and ingenuity of the Ethereum community to be able to solve those problems and get us to that $10,000 point. But we have some real contenders coming in with some alternative chains to try and take that spot. But let's go, instead of going down the chain rabbit hole, Nick, tell us a little bit about your background, and then we're going to go into the market recap, because we know that this is what you talk about every day, how to find alpha in the NFT market and what is this crazy market and what's happening every day. But tell us a little bit about yourself first.
In the context of NFTs, I got into this space technically in the NFT space this year. I got in around like February or March. I'd started a podcast about NFTs, and I was starting to interview a lot of the main players in the ecosystem to kind of just learn what they had gone through and learn about NFTs as a whole. The Beeple sale, you'd referenced one. I didn't realize that was the price that it sold for. Wow, that's pretty nuts. But it's also a giant. I mean, you need a nice place to have that thing rotating in your palace. So I think, so I entered then. I got a bunch of mentors. I started buying NFTs probably like a month after I started my podcast. Got an art blocks, ended up with a couple of apes, and bought a few other NFTs as well. But I was like slow into it, and then. Yeah, but I knew that it was a transformation when I heard about just the Beeple sale, not because of the amount, although that was the sticker shock. I think it was just like, oh, okay, like it's here, like the wave is here. I remember seeing it back in, I guess, what was it, 2017 with CryptoKitties, but it was like, oh, this infrastructure is not ready. Ironically, we're using the same infrastructure for the most part, but that said, the market is now here, and so yeah, I've been deep in the NFT space ever since, building tools, tracking the NFT market, creating content around it, and then we'll end up we're doing our own NFT, the first of which will be dropping in the next couple of weeks.
So you're like a Swiss Army knife of NFTs.
Yeah, it's actually been an issue for me when I get hired places. Is it's like you can't put me in a box, and so that's caused issues historically. But you know, it's also been having a Swiss Army knife. You want one in your pocket. So
wait. I feel like people don't carry that around anymore as much. Like
no,
back in the day, the Swiss Army knife was like, hold on, I could
yeah,
fix
exactly.
this.
But like if you're living in the city, especially, like what are you doing with a Swiss Army knife? Like
just in case you get mugged.
Hold on while I pull out my scissors.
Yeah, exactly.
So Nick, you combine your technical background. I know you are a coder, or you've taught yourself to code. You also have a media background, and you're combining those two areas of expertise into the Nifty, and pulling out some interesting information on daily drops, where you're finding alpha, and getting an understanding of where this market is going. Let's open up the market recap for the week and talk that through, and hear some of your commentary. We normally look at the top 10, but I'd love to hear if there's stuff happening beyond that that you think is interesting. We're seeing for the past week everything pretty much up, besides for Parallel Alpha and the Sandbox. But people are saying that the market is down, that we're in a bear market. So what's actually happening?
I mean, the people are correct. We're in a bear market in the NFT space. There's definitely like blips of opportunities. I end up flipping Solana NFT yesterday, and I have a wallet on Solana. I actually had a community member that lent me money, like to Sol, because I didn't have access to the Coinbase account at the moment where this drop was happening. So he just sent me it over. I ended up 4xing it, paying him back, and I've been just working off of that wallet ever since. And I did my second trade yesterday and doubled my wallet again. That was the people pleaser drop. So there's pockets of opportunity that exist. This is aggregating Ethereum. I collect this data as well on the Nifty.com. It also has Wax, which is what they include this, I guess, Farmer's World. I don't track Wax. I am interested in Solana. We see a lot of action in our community from that. And generally speaking, we use our community as an indicator of what is interesting and what people are interested in generally. Right now, it's sort of it's DeFi and I don't know if we can curse on this coin, but shitcoin season basically is what we're dealing with right now. So I think that's where a lot of the action is, and NFTs are sort of taking a backseat. That said, there still is activity, and we're still up over like 1,000% from where this was pre all of the activity back in like starting in June. So
let's break that down. Why do you think people are moving to DeFi and shitcoins? Like what's the is it because that's where the alpha is and everyone is chasing alpha? But I mean, can a savvy investor trader say, hey, there's probably opportunity sitting here while everybody else is looking somewhere else?
The main thing is that a large portion of the ecosystem that exploded to a peak in around August was that you had a large number of people that were really playing the mint flip game. And so a lot of the activity happened at sub 0.15 ETH. And if you're minting at sub 0.15 ETH and gas is 0.06, well, that just kills your game. Like your cost basis is gone up by 50%. And so there's just more risk at that point. Now, is it a ton of risk? Not really. But the problem is if the buyers are not scooping that up at those flip prices, it's less interesting. So that's where a lot of the people disappeared from, is that part of the ecosystem. We're still doing $40 plus million per day in activity on OpenSea alone. And so that's insane. That's that's a ton of activity. This market is here to stay. It's just a lower volume, and a lot of it right now is aggregated towards some of the top projects. That doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It just means that it doesn't feel as, it feels less active than before, despite the fact that there is still a ton of activity. It's just not as easy. So you're seeing it feels different.
I agree with you, but I guess the counter argument or the other side of the coin is like, when you do look like at the blue chip projects like CryptoPunks and Bored Apes and Art Blocks and things like that, and you're seeing there's not that much decrease in pricing and volume, right? You're kind of almost saying, well, is investing in blue chips the move, right? And holding things long term because they're sustaining this down market and the prices are still there, right? Maybe they're down a little bit, but you know, they're still there, right? Like they haven't dipped nearly enough for us to say, holy shit, this is all going to collapse.
Well, the floor price for a punk has gone from 150 ETH maybe like 4 weeks ago, and is now sitting at 78 ETH. So if you think,
but Ethereum is up, right? So Ethereum is up, and you know, I know it dropped to like, I look at both. I look at both the how much ETH it is and what's the US dollar value, right? Because they were still sitting at 2 days ago, $400,000. And if you look at from a dollar amount, the most punks ever hit was 450. And we've seen it down a lot lower than that.
But if you just held your ETH, you would have done better than buying the punk. So I think, you know, this idea of blue chips holding value is being questioned in this ETH rise. And whether that thesis holds true, at least we aren't seeing it play out with punks right now. You know, what
apes are looking real strong relative to punks. Like I'm feeling real good about my ape bag, and the multiple that I always look at is 2.5 apes per punk is where like it historically has felt like resting average. We saw it during the run up to mutant ape drop. We saw it get compressed below 2 ETH actually. And that was an interesting time. If you wanted to flip into a punk, you had the opportunity there. And punks also happened to go up, but that ratio had been compressed. We were over 3 apes per punk for a bit there, and now that's come down. So we're now below 2.5, which is I like seeing. So just as an ape holder, so that's my position in bias.
So that's interesting. Like similarly in the crypto market, when you look at the BDC ETH pair and what is the price comparison there, you're doing the same on the ape punk pair to try and get a relative value there. So let's use that pair. Where do you think apes versus punks? Where if you're placing your chips today, where would you be buying?
That may actually be the subject of the show that we're doing later. But in terms of, well, I have a complete bias towards apes right now. You know, I want both theoretically. Am I going to spend do I have a spare $350,000 cash to just like throw into the ecosystem to go put after a punk right now? No. That said, and I would need a lot more money before I even felt comfortable putting that much towards a punk. But you know, depending on who you speak to, or when we discussed it this morning, crypto punks are the Fabergé egg of the space. There's no marketing campaign behind a Fabergé egg. It just is a Fabergé egg. It's like a art piece. The art world buys a lot of things that most people have no idea about. And I think that could be the way that it continues to exist indefinitely, potentially. Apes, on the other hand, have a bunch of IP holders who are all building businesses with their apes. And from that standpoint, it has the potential to equal or potentially even surpass punks from that standpoint. It sounds ridiculous, but I actually do think my target has always been $500,000 floor for apes is when I saw one of my apes. I think punk should be at $1 million.
Well, you know, and I agree with everything you're saying, but I think I was talking to somebody and we had the conversation of like, well, why were punks not present at, NFT.NYC? And why did, apes put on such a big show? But there's no royalties in punks. There's royalties for apes. Like apes have an incentive to keep selling, right? They got to keep reinvesting money into that engine. Do punks have the same motivation since they're not necessarily making a royalty on it?
Well, it's not like the Bored Ape Yacht Club is telling holders of their token to sell it. I think that would be the opposite of what they would be.
No, but they're creating, by somebody going to, by them throwing a yacht party, it's the topic of conversation, right? It's just like a PR, a celebrity at a nightclub in New York City, and Page 6 posted and says this was the craziest party of the year. It's the same thing that happens on Twitterverse, no?
I think their token will actually be where things start getting interesting. Right now, what they have is a ton of cash that's going to be taxed at a significant amount because they essentially just sold a retail product. And so they have to actually spend a ton of money because it wasn't an investment. And so they're basically coming up with ways to reward their holders. I think NFT.NYC is one of those. Maybe they bonus themselves out next year's salary like this year. I have no idea. But that's the thing. Because I'm thinking about the same thing with our NFT. We're like, hey, if we make $500,000, I don't want to hold that $500,000 in my bank account and then just pay that all to the tax man. I'd much rather that we figure out like how we can deploy that capital as quickly as possible so that it actually provides the most value to the business. And I think in their case, that's kind of probably what they were thinking with that. And I guess mission accomplished from that standpoint. But they have no. It's just a different. It's a like you can.
It's a different brand. It's a completely different. I mean, they're not even just like you're not seeing ads for Chanel on TV, right? Like whereas you see for Nike every single day. It's a completely different target audience. It's a completely different marketing aspect of how they're doing it, and they don't need to. Like I don't think CryptoPunks needs to do it, right? Where apes, I don't know if they do need to do it, right? Because their community every day is involved in the process. They're there every day talking about it. You got to give them something to talk about.
Go ahead.
Let's move on from the blue chips where we're talking about the debate of punks versus apes, and talk about how you discover if you're not someone who has 30 ETH for an ape or 80 ETH for a punk. You're entering into the space. Maybe you're trying to buy something on Solana. Maybe you're trying to buy something on Ethereum. How do people find the alpha? What is the stuff that they should be looking for? How do you think about entering into these NFT drops? How do you discover them? What's kind of the process that, first and foremost, they should subscribe to the Nifty and get your daily digest would be step one. But talk through how you would approach this as a newcomer in the space that's saying, I got $1,000 that I want to invest here and try and figure out where to put
that. Wow. So the first thing when someone says they have $1,000, I say good luck. Because you're like, are you ready to just lose it? That said, now I can say buy my NFT. However, and I have no idea what's going to happen with your money then. But I would love for you to buy it. In terms of it's a difficult thing. So I actually went through a really bad run there. When we started our show on Twitter Spaces, we would live buy various NFTs. I probably plowed through like 5 ETH of just like throwing money at the dumbest NFTs that we could buy. I looked at one the other day that I had purchased and the floor is literally zero. It's zero. There's no, and I was like, I haven't even seen that. So people
it's not worth the gas. Yeah.
Literally, if they could make it negative, I feel like people were going to allow it to be like, just take this so I can fully write off this loss, was what I heard someone on the show said. If you listed at zero, that's a good faith effort. But I think that In terms of finding the item that you go with, it's a really hard call. The problem is, so I have friends that call and ask that all the time, and they have money to put into it, and they have a few grand to put in. And I'm like, buy this, hold it, and forget about it. And that's the end of it. Like there's nothing else to do. There's literally there's no flipping action right now at $1,000 because I've seen gas spike up to 0.06 and it's like what, $4,700. You're looking at $282 of going to fees right out the gate. So you're paying a 28% toll to play in the space, and that's a difficult thing. I say go on to Solana. I say hop in our Discord, and there's interesting opportunities that happen. We have one guy in our Discord who has right now he's batting 65%. He does a ton of research. He looks into them and he finds the projects that he thinks are interesting. That's his approach, and I actually like that because now you're avoiding that gas fee thing. If you have $1,000 today and you want to invest it, that's how I would approach it. If you're like, I want to be in the NFT space and I want to be playing, that's where I would go.
And I think you make a lot of valid points, but do you think that if somebody makes that call and says, I have $1,000 and I want to be in the NFT space, I mean, is telling them to buy something, like you said, buy it and forget about it? I mean, I wouldn't tell somebody to be a flipper if they had only $1,000, right? Because they really need to get their hands dirty and really do a lot of research to try to understand the space. I guess if you go back to 2 months ago or 3 months ago, where you could literally buy anything and flip it in a matter of hours, you could have said that. But I get the same phone call and I say, guys, buy what you like. And I think by you making this investment of $1,000, let's say, you're going to now want to learn more about the space, right? You're going to kind of pay a little bit more closer attention because now you have skin in the game. You might jump into the Discord group. You might learn a few things. And now when you buy your next NFT, you have more education of how to actually make that educated decision.
Yeah, the smartest move is to buy a better quality project, identify one that's quality, and hold it long term. The low IQ approach is to try and flip and make money. The reality is for people that have $1,000 to play in NFTs, I think most of them want to play that flipping game. Like most of them that are in there, I'm not recommending it as smart investment. That said, I think you learn a lot by losing $1,000, just like you learn a lot by losing $25,000 or $50,000. You learn a lot. It becomes more painful, but you almost have to go through, you have to push through some of that in order to learn. And I think some of the best traders in the stock market side of things, they've probably gone through that sort of learning curve as well. You got to put your own money at risk. You got to sometimes you're going to make bad calls. And even because if someone says, hey, I have $1,000, which NFT do I buy outside of my own? I really have no idea, which one is the best one for you to get at that price. I have some opinions, but it is so difficult to call those right now. A lot of them have collapsed from over 1 ETH down to the 0.5 range. And I could see that getting compressed even lower. And so now we're going to be all penny stock pickers, a few months from now, where we're I think Deadfellows is going to go up. I think Robotos is going to go up, or something that we all knew from before, but we don't know whether or not the community is going to buy into that. So I don't know. That's a little bit.
Where do you think, how far do you think we are to the end, right? Do you think things are going to continue to go down? Do you think at that point, some of them are just going to go out of business and say, hey, this is not worth us continuing to try to grow these brands? Is that so you think we're kind of in the first phase of squeezing everybody out, or a lot of these projects out?
There's going to be a lot of people that make a lot of money. There's going to be a lot of people that lose money. We have a distribution curve of that. And I think that right now, when everyone's on the side that's winning, that the ecosystem is imbalanced in that space as more people but your question is more relevant not to the flippers. I don't care what happens to flippers outside of my own wallet, basically. I think in terms of business creators, that's where you're going to actually see things pan out, where people took the money and took it off the out of the business and just gave themselves a trip bought a fancy villa, or they bought a nicer apartment, or they got like whatever, and that's where they put all of their money. They're not business builders, basically. They're just people who took advantage of this short-term period and thought, I deserve this money, basically. That was what happened. And they didn't realize that this was like, and then we need the ecosystem to go down at some point in order for the builders, the true entrepreneurs, to go and push through that period. And I think years from now, there's going to be a lot of remarkable businesses that were built during this time that we're going to say, oh my God. But like 98% of them are going to be complete trash, basically. That's just my general thought. Yeah.
Let's talk about those remarkable businesses that are being built. I know you're building the Nifty. Tell us what that is and what your vision is for it. And then we'll also talk a bit about your NFT drop and what that entails. But let's talk about the Nifty first.
The Nifty, for most people who are interacting with it today, we've gone heavily down the community side of things. And the most common thing that you come across is our YouTube, our Twitter Spaces in the morning, and our Discord. That's the foundation of our community that we've been building. I believe, and I've observed it, I've been part of the Bored Ape Yacht Club. I believe that building communities and community builders are going to be one of the highest ROI activities as it plays out over the coming years. This is businesses that are built from those communities. That's the foundation of what we have. We also have a data tool component, which is on the Nifty.com. That's influenced by my background in content development. I'd done this with Facebook before, tracking all of the Facebook apps at that time and Facebook pages. I tracked every page, how many fans or how many likes, whatever, as well as the daily active users on every single application, and would do analysis about that and go to my database, run some queries, and come up with some cool content as a result of it. In this case, it's a very similar thing, followed a similar playbook, but this time it generates an automated email digest every morning. And so there's going to be a lot of evolution to this, actually, to this product. That'll be releasing over the coming, let's call it the next quarter, over the next 3 months. I would say a lot of updates are going to happen to this actual data system. So this is the other component of it. So in addition to our daily content, which is a mixture of insight and entertainment, we have this, which is heavily focused down the insight path, which is saying, hey, how are these different projects going? What's the median sale price of any one of these individual projects? What is the top sales that are happening from those individual projects? And you can just go in and view that data. And so right now, this is you can also set up your own watch list, and it gets sent to you every morning directly in your inbox. So when you star those items, it'll prompt you to log in. And then every morning you get an update on the price of those individual projects. So those are sort of the two areas that we're operating right now. The third will be the NFT, but maybe I'll pause there for a sec.
That's very cool, and you're making that all available and for free to the community. So kudos to you. That information, I know I look at my Nifty email every morning to get a sense of what's happening in the industry, and I particularly like the section that talks about kind of meaningful drops, which new drops and the activity and volume in them, and that gives me a nice discovery of new projects that are happening in real time that I can go and look at them and see, is this of interest? Is this something that I would want to invest in? Also, so you have the Nifty index. What is that?
I'm going to expand that over time, but I thought it would be useful to keep track. Basically, the way that this is based is a price-based index comparable to the Dow Jones index. It's based on the median sale price is what I'm most interested in for most of these projects, of a collection of NFTs. Not expose what those projects are, but you can guess what they are, and I'll tell you some of them, which is CryptoPunks, Bored Ape Yacht Club, Cool Cats, the V-Friends I included there. I included World of Women just because that was like a thing in time, and I thought I wanted some sort of lower end ones to be included there. I have like Damien Hirst. I have a couple art blocks projects in there, excuse me. And so I just like that as an indicator of sort of where the market's at, and are we seeing strength among that pool of projects?
So, I mean, this is great because it tells you directly. I mean, we're having a debate: are we in a bit of a bear market? And we can see clearly from the index that trading activity and price volume has definitely gone down. So, whether we're in a full-blown bear market, we're
80%.
definitely in a dip. We're definitely in a moment where, if you're thinking about entering, this could be a good entry point based on what we're seeing in the data. What happened on the 25th of October that there's such a massive spike?
That was a bug in my index, I think. Actually, my guess
We all
is
made a lot of money.
no. What happened is there were a couple of items that sold for a large amount, basically, and so that biased that index heavily. But it readjusted very quickly as other sales were going through, so it just flushes it out. But yeah, that just shows the impact of this being a beta index. But it's better than a lot of the ones that I've checked out that are trying to even make a play at it. I spent a lot of time with just crunching numbers and stuff like that. So it's it's been a passion of mine up until now to really just get that out the door. And there's a lot of features that I'm really interested in delivering, and I think a lot of them are going to be free. Like a lot of them are going to be free, just because if you deliver value, people recognize that. I think
Value will come back.
Exactly.
So we love free, and we're big fans of that. So I'm going to make sure that everyone knows about the Nifty. Tell us about Alpha Portal, which is your community drop, which is your NFT, which would be your recommendation with anyone with $1,000 to be buying your NFT. So tell us about it. So
fortunately, it doesn't cost $1,000, but if you want to buy multiple, great. It's going to be probably around $150, which to me is just like a no-brainer. I want to make something that's a no-brainer to people that have supported us. Is really the purpose of this project. So people that have been in our Discord, that have been in our Twitter Spaces, that have been supporters for a while, we want to reward them. And the way that this is working is basically we have a grand vision of where we're headed from beyond here. And I think that there is a massive opportunity. We're all believers clearly in the NFT space. That's why we're here to begin with. So we're long-term believers in that space and the potential that that brings to businesses, including media brands like ourselves, basically. And so what we want to do is, before we continue to expand the audience, we want to give people a drop that those early people get access to. That's the foundation of it. So what do you get out of that? Well, the simple thing is you get an NFT, which is going to be designed by a great artist. Why do you want this? What you get, the utility is basically you're going to get to participate and shape the world that's created. So it's your ticket to that universe. The portal is literally going to transport you into the first universe that we create. That universe, in contrast to a lot of other projects, which are like, we're building a game. We might have game dynamics built into it, but we're not promising a game. What we want to do is build that universe into our content, into the world that we're interacting with people, and give people within our Discord the ability to interact, give them the ability to level up, give them the ability to deliver value and get rewarded for that. That's the broad picture of what that is. And so there's a world that we're going to create together. And yeah, that we haven't figured out how this is going to be exchanged. My thought initially was you can burn one of these NFTs in exchange for the one that eventually, the next one that gets released. We don't understand. We don't know all the dynamics right now. So saying anything about that isn't even worthwhile. But that's kind of some of the stuff that we're thinking about, is like, how do you actually deliver value to that community in a meaningful way?
How many NFTs are you guys dropping on your first drop?
3333, priced at 0.033.
Is it on ETH or on Solana?
It's on ETH. We had a discussion about that with the community last night, and by and large, everyone was fans of ETH. There's one thing that I have seen about a discussion around gas utilization on ERC 1155 tokens versus 721. So I'm open to exploring the potential of that. I've seen some people use 1155. I don't know. I haven't made a determination on that, but it sounds like everyone universally wanted ETH. So I'm gonna stick with that.
They believe in ETH being 10,000. They're ready to go.
What's that?
They believe in ETH hitting 10,000. They're ready to go.
I mean, if you believe ETH is hitting 10,000, then you're not buying any NFTs right now. But the yeah, no, I'm just making that up.
To your comment on ERC 1155 and 721, my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that with 1155, you're able to mint multiple NFTs on one single transaction.
Yes.
So Puck, for those of you who don't know, very well known creative crypto artist, did their Lost Poets drop where there were 64,000 NFTs or 63,000 some number. And you could mint 100 of those in a single transaction and pay one gas fee. So that's the innovation of 1155. There is some debate on whether a 721 or an 1155 is more valuable over time. I'm not entirely sure of the technical underpinnings of why that debate exists. And I'm not sure if you are, Nick. So there is some consideration on when you're buying an NFT, what's the underlying smart contract that it's minted under and the standard that it's minted under. But I think with time, those things will disappear. But right now, that's the narrative.
The main distinction that I did see on a technical standpoint, and I may be completely wrong about this, but it does appear that when you exchange the 1155 NFTs, they all have the same token ID. So you own the same ID. And the distinction there is I guess the 721 maxis would say,
you don't have the serial number.
I own number 36. Like no one else owns 36. And so I don't know. I sold my POC, so that I don't, and I don't have any other 1155s to be completely honest. So I like 721 to be fair, but yeah, the gas thing sucks, and especially at 0.033, if gas is at 0.04 or you're spending more on the gas, you're basically expecting us to like double in price, or you're just a believer and you're willing to like eat the cost. But like I am genuinely concerned about that. As we move forward.
Well, one thing I got to give you kudos to is opening it up to the community and taking their vote of how to build. And I think we talk, Yossi and I talk about this every single day, right? Like it's all about the community, right? The fact that we're doing the show, the fact that you're coming onto the show, it's all about educating as many people as possible and introducing them to this space, because I know personally on a daily basis, at least 2 dozen times, what's an NFT? I don't really know what an NFT is. People now are familiar with the word metaverse because of Facebook. But other than that, most people still don't know what an NFT is. And literally it's like hand-to-hand combat, right? We have to educate people and we have to talk to the community, right? Like, how can we make this better? How can we make it that you're going to get more involved? And, we talked about it earlier, Board API Club, people in the community are the ones that are driving the boat, right? And we're seeing it with other projects as well. And I love to hear that you're doing that with your NFT and actually talking to them and saying, hey guys, what should we do next? Or how can we build this product?
I love the phrase hand-to-hand combat because I love competing on the ground. Like I just love that. And I get so pumped up because I'm willing to play that game all day. And the distinction is like, you're actually building relationships with people. And that's something that's really incredible. I mean, there's been people in our community that have like, we're having human experiences together. And that's something that's like something that I had not experienced with my last content business. It wasn't the same. Like it wasn't in that, that depth of connection with our audience. And that's something that I really cherish and am so grateful for as we're going through this, because it's like, we're all figuring this out together. Like, and it's really awesome. Like, it's just such an awesome place to be from that standpoint. So yeah.
Yeah. And it's honest. It's transparent, right? It's authentic. There's no like, we're building this big thing. It's very kind of, everyone knows what's happening, right? There's no kind of skeletons in the closet. And I think that's the interesting thing about the blockchain technology and NFTs and Ethereum, right? Like you could pull back the curtain and have a full understanding of everything that's happening. That's That's what drives me to it personally.
One last comment on that, though, which is I don't know that Bored Ape Yacht Club or Pixel Vault could pull back the curtain. And I don't know if Larva Labs could as well. Larva Labs may be developing. They're the only one that I think may be able to do it. But both of the two founders of it, I ran into one of them at an event, and he was saying, no, it's still just the two of us. And I'm like, what? With $80 million, it's two of you? Are you like... You have to be lying. You have to be lying. But if other people are in that same boat, that's the thing where it's like, you may not want to pull back the curtain. And a lot of those projects that have made the most money, those are ones where I'm sort of, I'm more skeptical. Axie Infinity, I'm not skeptical, but I look at some of the NFT projects. If you're bringing in that sort of money, it's one where like, if you have a team of 5 people and you brought in a couple $100 million, people are going to say, what's going on over there? Like what's taking place? Although, that said, Instagram was only like 4 people, so I guess there's an acceptable.
Those are 2 very capable developers out of Lava Labs. If that's just 2 guys have created all of that innovation, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
They don't sleep either, Yossi. They don't sleep either.
Nick, great to have you on the show. If people want to be part of your community, they want to participate in the Alpha NFT drop that's happening, how do they find out more? Where do they go?
My Twitter account is right there. So just check that out. And if you want to check out the Nifty Alpha on YouTube, love to have you as a subscriber. Most important is to hop in the Discord, because that's where you get whitelisted for our upcoming drop. It's the nifty.com/Discord. And if you want to participate, that's where you can go.
Amazing. We've heard it time and time again that the alpha comes from the community. And really, if that's what you want to find out, if you're trying to find where the alpha is, you've got to be part of these communities. So join the Nifty Alpha Discord group, get involved with the community, and from there, you will find that magical internet money that we're all searching for. So, Nick, good luck with this. Good luck with the drop and building out the Nifty. Always a fan of hearing your insights and love dialing in to the Twitter Spaces. Crazy stuff happens on that daily show.
There are no limits on our breadth of conversation. It does get a little bit over the top. I was having some professional conversations the other day, and I'm like, yeah, check this out, but like, be warned, there are no guardrails.
Definitely no guardrails. So it is always interesting to see where we're going to go today on the Daily Show. So please subscribe to that as well. And thank you for having you on, man.
Nick,
thanks for having me.
Thanks. You were awesome. We'll see you again soon. Thanks a lot, bud. That was Nifty Nick with the insights. Listen, he knows what he's talking about.
We're seeing again, we're seeing, really capable, creative individuals spending their time trying to educate the community about NFTs, creating tools, bringing in data, and really trying to professionalize what's going on in the crazy world of NFTs. And what always impresses me, doing it for free. So Nifty Nick is a OG in the space and really trying to build out those communities. So check out his Discord group. And I'll say it again, we talk about the community every single time, and there is no shortcut to learning about the space. You've got to be in it and you've got to be participating. And from there, you will find the insights and hopefully be very profitable in those trades. And we'll be there with you. Stanley, any final thoughts? And
since we love our community so much, we want to give it back to our community. What do you need to do? Just subscribe.
We make it so easy. Subscribe to the show. Click the subscribe button. Tell your friends and get in line to win $55,000 in NFTs out of the Goat Vault. I mean, can we make it any simpler? None. You can't make it any simpler. Like literally, like you can't make it any simpler. I'm not even. Stay tuned, subscribe, and we look forward to seeing you next week in this crazy NFT land and telling you more about what's going on.
I know. And we'll see if anybody's prediction of 10,000 is true. Thanks, guys, for joining us, and we'll see you guys again next week.